Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So the most common major is computer science, right? How much do you expect to earn with a computer science degree after you graduate? 90? Inshallah, inshallah. More, inshallah. 90,000, is that the norm? 70K plus? Okay. So you're looking at it as, I'm not going to blow it out on the pay scale as soon as I graduate, so that I don't get like boxed out, which actually is a very important strategy. So a lot of times when you get out of college, you try to shoot for the highest salary possible, and that actually prevents you from getting promotions and salary increases in the future, because they go, this guy's really expensive or she's really expensive. But if you start out with what the median is, or a little bit below the median, and then you work for like a year, then you can go from like, whatever the median salary is, and look at like a 30%, 40% increase if you've proved yourself. Okay, so where do you all see yourselves in 10 years? What are the things that you want to have in your life after 10 years? Family. What else? Over here. What do you want in 10 years? It's like, I don't know. A house? Who said a house? A house? A big one. Got to have a big house. In Texas, it doesn't make sense to have a small house, unless you have a really big yard and a privacy fence. Yes? A big army? A big army. Egyptians, guys. Always, something always about the army with the Egyptians. Cars. Dream car. What's your dream car? An Audi? 67 Chevelle, wow, going classic. F-150, yes, this is on brand for Texas. That or a Dodge Ram. Honda Accord, on brand for U of H students. Yes. 94 Supra, very, very specialized, yes. Oh, is it going to have one of those wing things on the back too? See, I knew. Range Rover, good choice. Yes. Were you saying Range Rover as well? Oh, you were swatting a bug? Okay. No bugs for her in 10 years. That's what she wants. What about anybody else over here? So we said house, car, family. Do you want to be able to vacation? How much time do you want to be able to take off for your vacation? 12 months. Where would you want to go on vacation? Turkey, Switzerland. Over here? I can't hear from, what are you guys saying over here? Maldives? Italy, good choice. Never been, but I heard that people are horrible and rude, but I heard that it's really nice. Indonesia. I've been to Malaysia. Malaysia's quite nice, although I was on there on business, not on Norway. I think Norway would be nice. What do you guys think the average cost for a 2-week vacation in somewhere like Italy, Norway, the Maldives, whatever it may be? 5K, 7,000. Do I get 10? Are you going to fly business? Anybody here ever flown business class? Yes, you've flown business class. Okay, hold on. If you've flown business class, do you ever want to fly any other class ever again? Right? It's like, you're like, where is my life? Like, why would I be back in economy? Right? It's almost not worth it. All of that stuff costs a lot of money. But if you are in college right now, you said few of you are seniors, the majority of you seem to be juniors, am I correct? Yes. Okay? If you are not paying attention to your money and the plans that you're making for the next 10 years now, then that car, that home, that vacation, that time off, that starting a family is going to be kicked further and further down the line. It's going to be sequentially more and more difficult to get those things, those material things that you want. Do you know what's even more important than the material things that we mentioned? It's the peace of mind that you get after you've earned money. So studies have shown that any person, depending upon where they live in the country, so if you live in, say, New York or Los Angeles, then after $125,000 a year. If you live anywhere else, anywhere between 75 to 125, depending upon where you live, you don't get that much enjoyment out of your money. Meaning making money and having a large salary is not everything in life. It's not the most important thing. It sounds cliche. However, you have to have activities and things to do that fulfill you other than just making money. How do you get those? You're only going to get those if you have a good education, you don't have a lot of debt, and you've planned for the things that you want in life, so that you can take the time off and enjoy your vacation instead of going to a vacation and then coming back and wishing that you had a vacation from your vacation because you got to go back to work and now you're exhausted. Which means that you have to have an intention. Your intention has to be pure. You have to understand the reason you were created, the reason why you live your life, and the reason why you're given material things in your life. It's not because material things are bad or because they're good. It's because material things are a means to be able to get down further in life, to get along further in life, and to better yourself and your life and the lives of those around you, and then eventually to go where? To Jannah. As Muslims, that should be our goal in everything that we do. We're looking to the next life. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man kanat al-akhirah niyatuhu, jama'a Allahu shamlahu, وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ." أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. Whoever has the next life as their intention, Allah will gather for them all their affairs. وَجَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. In another narration, He will place wealth in his heart. And this life will come and throw itself at their feet. So you won't have to chase after the material things. They'll just come to you because you're living for a greater purpose. That greater purpose, a lot of people think, I'm gonna set milestones, I'm gonna set goals for my life, I'm gonna retire with this much, I'm gonna have this job, I'm gonna have this car, I'm gonna have this vacation. And they say, okay, well, what do I need to do to be able to get that? I need to be able to get an education, I need to be able to plan with my money, I need to be able to budget. What starts before the budget? When you write a line item in your budget, you need to know the intention behind that line item. You need to connect the very small things in your life with the very big goals and milestones and values that you want to see in your life. Lots of people live lives where they simply chase after materialism, and they're never satisfied. I know people that are, if you look on paper, multi-millionaires that live paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because although Allah has blessed them with lots of wealth, they have not been blessed with a pure intention. And I know people, some here even in Houston, some even retirees, who live on $30,000, $40,000 a year and have more fulfilling lives than most of the wealthy people in the community. Why? Because not only do they have the pure intention, but the little bit that they have, they plan around it. So the financial decisions that you all make right now are going to determine what's going to happen in your life for the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years. If you have any amount of student debt and you have not made a plan to pay off that student debt, most Americans will sit around with paying off their student debt comfortably until they die. Many people will not finish paying off their debt until they are 50 or 60 years old. I have a client, she recently paid down over $275,000 of student debt. Guess what she does for a living? No, teacher? No, come on. Physician, yes, physician, right? When we did the calculations, if she had stayed at her standard payment, she would not have paid it off until she was in her 60s. Which meant that she would have had to work that entire time. Which meant that she would have to put having children on hold. Which meant that both her and her husband would be working at the same time. Which meant that they would not have those nice vacations because any extra time and money would go into children and paying down debt. But what her and her husband did is they created a plan to pay down the debt so that within The 4 years, because she worked for about 2-3 years before she said, I need to get this out of my life. They placed a plan of 2 to 3 years, maximum 4, to pay down all of the debt so that they owe absolutely nothing. And they were able to pay that $275,000 down in 2 years and a couple of months by leveraging all of the resources that they had. Now, mashallah, they have 2 kids. They vacation overseas to see family. They vacation in the U.S. to see family. They vacation to get away from family. They're living a very nice lifestyle right now because they made a plan and they thought through it. So, more debt means a less future success. Less debt means more future success. You will be the envy of your peer group if you are in your 30s and you are not paying down student debt. Mark my words. When you go into the workforce, and if you have any student debt or any consumer debt, you will find that most people don't have this value of independence, of not wanting to be under someone else's thumb. They don't have it. They look at it, well, this is the life that we have. Let's live it up. And therefore, you find that they run up credit cards and they refinance credit cards with credit cards. And then they get payday loans. The average interest rate on a payday loan is how much? Anyone know? How much? 5, I hear 5. I heard somebody say 7. 8. 35? 35 is closer. Anyone else? Going once, going twice? What did you say? 18? No, you went down. He said 35. Average payday loan anywhere from 40% interest to 400% interest. Just so that you can get cash to buy a couple DoorDash meals and live it up until your next paycheck, when then you're going to roll all the interest over and continue to pay interest on interest. Why am I saying all of this? Because if you look at the papers in front of you, talking about A, let's go to B. Why should you care about your money? And why should you care about your finances and what you do with it? Because knowing more about your money now, before you finish school, will give you a healthier life. People that have less debt and are more knowledgeable of their money lead healthier lives. They exercise more. They have less stress. They have more enjoyment in their life, even if they don't make a lot of money. It also teaches you responsibility. The biggest thing that you have to do right now is leverage where you're at in your life. A lot of people in our community do not realize this. You do not realize the immense blessing that you have. How many of you are still living at home with your parents? Almost everybody. Except for a handful. You do not realize the immense blessing that you have of being with your parents. Okay, so I grew up the typical American lifestyle. What does that mean? Parents were not invested in my education. Honey, you just do whatever makes you happy, and I'm sure that you're going to be great at it. Now, if I had somebody that basically said, if you don't get out of bed, I'm going to kick you, and you're going to go to school, and I probably would have done a lot more earlier. Alhamdulillah, everybody has their path. And I'm not complaining about my success. Alhamdulillah, I've been very successful in what I do. But you have a blessing in parents that are concerned not only for your future and your education, but are also underwriting that future and that education. You think that bills pay themselves. I know that you guys don't think that. But many people don't realize that when your parents are footing the bill for much of the expenses in your life, simple things like where you live and the food that you have access to, and having a car and being on someone else's insurance, all of those things have a great amount of value. That where if you don't have access to those things, your life would be exponentially harder. I know a few brothers in the community, mashallah, very successful now in what they do, came from poor families whose parents actually couldn't provide them anything more than a roof over their head. Couldn't even provide them food. How did you get through college? Well, I couldn't qualify for FAFSA because of a few different issues. So I used to work and fund my college through credit cards. I used to pay with credit cards, and then churn credit cards to help me pay it off, and then work to pay off the credit cards. So if you are concerned about your money, right now you will be healthier, happier, more stable. You'll have a stronger foundation early. You'll have a better future earlier. What do I mean by a better future earlier? When your friends are still worried if they're going to meet the debt-to-asset ratio, the loan-to-value ratio to be able to borrow money and buy a home, you're not going to have that problem because you're going to owe less money and have more money saved overall. And in general, you're going to have better peace of mind and less stress. So let's go to number C. Number C? Letter C. If it's math, it's number as well. So saving versus debt versus investing. So if you're 18 years old and you start saving $100 a month, then in 4 years, at the age of 22, how much money are you going to have? $4,800 in cash. If you charge $1,000 on a credit card at the age of 18 and pay only $20 a month, usually the minimum amount that you have to pay on a credit card so that it doesn't go to default, then after 4 years, you will still owe $652, which means that with interest accumulating, not paying things down, you're still going to owe money. But if you were to invest $100 a month, at 18, in 4 years, you'll have $5,488. If you continue investing at $100 a month for the next 10 years, then you'll have $18,232. That's at an average rate of about 8 to 9%. Okay? Why am I saying this? Because you have to put your money to work for you. One of the largest swaths of my clients, so I do financial planning as a profession. So on one side, I do real estate development, structuring, Sharia compliance work for investors. On the other, I do work with individuals like yourselves, people that are seniors, new out of college, starting their careers, or they've been working in their job for 10 years, and they go, oh my God, I didn't know that I could invest in my 401k. I thought it was haram. I didn't realize that I actually needed to be saving money all this time because now I have medical bills that I need to pay, and I'm not able to do so just through my insurance. I want to be able to do X, Y, Z in life, and I'm really realizing I have the resources, but I never leveraged the resources to get there. A 403B. Have you heard of that? A 401k. What have you heard about a 401k? What's that? Take it out? Take it out after some time? What else? There's two kinds? You don't know the two kinds. But there's two kinds. There's regular 401k and vanilla 401k. So what else have you heard? Yes, somebody else had their hand up. Companies match. What does that mean? That means if you put $100 into the 401k, your company puts $100 into the 401k. So you get free money up to a certain percentage of the total money that you make every year. The biggest fear that people have is they go, I don't know if it's halal for me to invest in my 401k. Or I just did whatever the company told me to do, and now 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, I'm realizing that they put all of my money into haram things. And I don't feel comfortable with that as a Muslim. What do I do? By understanding the very, very basics of how to manage your personal finance now, you will not run into those problems, and you will have exponentially better returns on all of your investment. Sharia compliant investing, ethical investing in general, does better than conventional investing. Why? Because companies are not allowed to have a lot of debt. And when you have a well-capitalized company, that is one of the best hedges against volatility. And the more stable a company is over the long period of time, the better their returns are going to be. So, what are your financial responsibilities? Now that you've understood that there's just saving money, there's spending money, and then there's investing money, what should you be worried about right now as a student, as a college student? So first of all, We mentioned, I already asked the question, most of you here are already or still living at home with your parents, correct? How many of you would like to be able to care for your parents later in life? Inshallah. A few of you don't have your hands up. You're like, they didn't take me to school that day. Done. So mashallah, this is another thing that I think is very unique to our community. So the majority of my financial planning clients actually carve out a portion of their savings and investment for two things. One is to take care of their parents in their old age. Do you know what the other one is for? Huh? Take care of their children. What are they going to do for their children? No, their kids have gone to college. What do they want for their kids after? Marriage. So how do I pay for my son-in-law has to ride in on an elephant at the Galleria. How do I pay for this? I've never been to a wedding with an elephant, but I almost went to a walima with a horse. Alhamdulillah, I didn't show up that night. I went to the luncheon earlier in the day. So if you are a dependent, you're still living with your parents, they're covering part of your college costs or all of your college costs. You're actually doing better than 70% of everyone that you go to school with. If your parents are covering all or some of your college costs, you're doing better than 70% of college, everyone that you go to college with, right? So if you can leverage what you're doing now and catapult yourself into the future, do so. A lot of people in your age, in college, think, I'm not making that much, so it doesn't really matter. Why would I have to worry about saving? Why would I have to worry about investing? So one of my clients here in town, he's in his 50s now. He's 56, just about 56, 57. When he was in college, I actually believe he went to U of H. When he started at U of H, he started putting $50 into a Roth IRA. And he continued to put $50 into a Roth IRA, invested into amount of mutual funds every month until he was about 32. So from the time he was 22 to 32, he was making full contributions, so about $4,000 to $5,000 a year. And when he was in college, he was doing $50 a month. After he was 32, when he was 33, he opened his own medical practice, and his income skyrocketed. And so he was prohibited by law from contributing to a Roth IRA. So you have to have a certain income amount, below a certain income, to be able to contribute to that type of account. Because they want to encourage people that don't have as much to save for retirement. So he didn't put a single dollar from the time he was 32 and until he was 52 into that Roth IRA. It just sat there, and the gains were reinvested and reinvested and reinvested. How much money did he have when we checked his accounts at 52, 53 years old? How much do you think? 500,000? Who said 500,000? You said 700,000, 500,000, 700,000. Do I hear 8? Do I hear 8? Anyone who want 8? 8, 8, 9. $1 million? We got $1 million. Who said $1 million? So you had $2 million, you're very close. So he had $2.2 million. $2.2 million by contributing the same amount that it would have cost him to simply go out to dinner once a week. To go out and entertain himself and his family every week, he put the same amount into an account. So, what should you be doing right now for your finances as a college student? Number one, and if you look here, I put little boxes there so you can check these off and make sure that you're doing them. Number one, you should have savings. How many of you have money that you've saved up? Okay, good. How many of you are not embarrassed at the amount? Is that you are embarrassed or you're not embarrassed? Trick question. You should look at your monthly expenses and have about 3 months of your monthly expenses in that account. How much does it cost for you to live? And then save that amount. Then at least 10% of all the money that you make. Yes, I know that you have a part-time job or you're not making that much money, but at least 10% should be going and being invested into something like a Roth IRA. You can just look up on Investopedia, Roth IRA. There's a good description of it. It's an account that you put money into. Inside that account, you invest in certain funds or stocks, and then it grows over the long term. You can take the contributions out after 5 years. You can take the gains out after you retire. If you can switch it, and instead of putting only 10% of what you earn into investments, and instead put 90% of what you earn into investments, you will be that much better off when you start your career and further down the line in your career. What are some of the ways that you all know to invest? What would you, if you were to invest, if I said, take out your phone and do something to invest right now, what would you do? Stocks, but how? Like, what would you use for stocks? Robinhood. How many people say Robinhood here? Raise your hands. Okay, so we have, what else would you use to invest if it wasn't Robinhood? Somebody said Webull. Fidelity. Okay, Fidelity is a very good one. Okay, what else? Zoya is a screener. It's not, we don't do investments yet, but soon, inshallah. Vanguard, okay. Coinbase. Have you been seeing the news lately? So, for those of you who said Robinhood or Webull, no. There's a difference between trading stocks and investing in the market. Trading stocks means you're buying something, you're sitting on it, you're waiting for it to go up, you sell it, you take a profit. You do that over and over again. If you want to do that, that's great. But that's a full-time job in and of itself. To actually be a successful day trader or swing trader means that you have to dedicate as much time as you would to a part-time or full-time job to understand the markets. But when we talk about investing, we're simply going to take that money, open up an account with Wahed Invest, Fidelity, Schwab, E-Trade, whom else? Any brokerage account that's out there. You open up an account with them, and you're going to put that money into a basket of stocks or ETFs or index funds and simply invest, take that same amount of money in every single paycheck, put money into that account, and make that money work for you. Because if it just sits there in cash, it's not going to do anything. But if it's invested in the markets, then it's going to grow over time. The more money you can do with that now, the better for your future. And then lastly is helping out with the bills. How many of you help your parents with bills? MashaAllah, I'm so proud of you guys. I really mean that. That's a very honorable thing to do, MashaAllah. But I want that to be the last thing that you do. And what I mean by that is, unless your parents are really struggling, they've probably got most of the bills covered. So the way you want to go about paying the bills is this. You don't want to just put money towards your parents' bills. You want paying the bills to build credit for you so that you have a financial track record. It's consumer spending, like having a credit card. Number 2 is utility payments. Okay? Number 3 and 4 and 5, those are other things. But the 2 most important and the largest point of your credit score and your access to credit in the future is, do you buy things from the marketplace on a credit card and do you pay it back on time? And do you pay your utilities, which represent your base needs, on time and consistently? So if you can take one of those bills and pay it off every month and then have your parent get a credit card for you in your name, but on their account, you will basically piggyback off of their credit score until you turn 18 or 20, depending upon the card, and then you'll have a very high credit score, even though you've had a credit card for a very short amount of time. So save, invest, and then do what? Help out with the bills in a way that's going to benefit your future credit. How many of you here work, have a job? I don't mean like, like under the table, like I get cash. I line up at Home Depot. Nothing wrong with that. What's a typical job that you guys are working? Tutoring? Okay, good. Retail sales? Okay. Anyone else? Were you yawning, or was that raising your hand? Yes. You were yawning? You yawn for a job. You have a job? And yawning. What do you do? You're a tutor. Okay. Excellent. All right. What else? What else do you guys do? Mentoring? Yes. Coaching? How's that different from tutoring? Kids? Okay, cool. All right. So if you have a job, this is what you need to start to understand. How many of you, after your first paycheck, looked at your paycheck and said, what the hell is going on? Where is all of my money? Did you do that? I was pissed when I heard, excuse my language. I was very, very mad, stuck for a law, when I saw that almost 30% of my check was gone. So understand what it means to have to pay taxes. So number one, make sure that you fill out your W-4, you keep a copy of it. Number two, learn what you can and cannot do at work. Learn what your benefits are. Also, learn the benefits that you get from the state, although your employer tells you that you don't get those benefits, because sometimes they'll do that. You may be eligible for unemployment. You may be eligible for something called FMLA. That depends upon if you're injured or sick at work or whatever. A lot of times, because employers don't want to have to pay that money for you or for you to use those resources, they tell you that you're not eligible for them, when in reality you are. So get the employee handbook and then understand what you're eligible for and what you're not eligible for. Okay? Then, how many of you file your taxes on your own? So that's a quite small number given the number of people here. Figure out whether it's going to be more advantageous for you to file your taxes on your own or file them as a dependent with your parents. Now, after the Trump administration, they changed a couple of things in the tax code. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference if you're filing on your own or if you're filing under your parents. But it may make a difference in the amount of fees that you have to pay at the university. So go to financial aid and talk to them about that and find out if it's going to be better for you to file taxes on your own or if it's going to be better for you to file as a dependent with your parents. Keep any of the documentation, the W-2s, 1099s, and stuff like that. And then if you need to, file a tax return. Yes? Yes, that's a good point. So if you need health care and your parents have health care, then yes, you'd still want to remain a dependent. Absolutely. Yes? For both. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I mean, you can file taxes on your own really at, I think, anytime after 17 or 18. But that's a very good point about health care. One thing that you can do as well, though, is that you can compare the price to getting some universities. I don't know what U of H does, but you can see some universities will actually have student health care that'll be cheaper than your parents keeping you on their health care plan. So you can check out that as well. Okay. Basic money management. How many of you have a checking account? How many of you have declined overdraft protection? Do you know what that is? How many of you have ever charged something with your debit card and then found out that you took out more money than you were supposed to from your account? Have you ever done that? I was very mad the very first time that happened, right? Astaghfirullah, I was very mad. And if you have a checking account, you want to make sure what kind of fees and what kind of benefits you're getting. And never be afraid in anything in the financial world, whether it's with a bank, whether it's a credit card company, to call them and politely ask them to reduce your fees or to give you something for free. I'm a student. I understand that you have a minimum amount that you require in the banking account, and if I don't have $1,200 in my banking account, checking account at all times, you're going to charge me $12 a month. I'm a student, that's kind of hard for me. Would you mind waiving that fee for me? Always be nice, always be cordial. If that person doesn't, call back in a few days and ask again. But be insistent. You'll be surprised at the amount of things that you can get for free or reduced fees if you simply ask. If you ever run into the point where you are overdrafted or you have a credit card and you have an interest charge, call them up and say, yes, I have been using this card for XYZ. I didn't realize that I didn't pay it on time. I usually pay my credit cards on time, as you can see. Can you waive this fee for me? And they'll say, I'll be happy to waive that as a one-time fee. I'll happy to waive that fee as a one-time courtesy. And then you can get that one-time courtesy many other times. Okay. How many of you track your spending? How much money you spend, how much money you save? What do you guys use? What is it? Your credit card has a spending thing on there? That's good. Is it like from Chase? I couldn't hear you, but whatever it is, it's if your credit card or your bank has something that's built into the account, use that. If you don't have something like that, use something like Mint or Personal Capital. Those are two that I particularly like. I actually like Personal Capital more, but Mint's okay, except that they're always marketing credit cards to you. Auto pay your bills if you have bills that need to be paid every month. And then decide what you need versus what you want. How do you make a difference? How do you know the difference between what you need versus what you want? Would you die without it? That's a very good rule. Like, yeah, Dad, Netflix is a need, okay? I will die if I don't see season 5 of The Crown. I need to find out what happened. I'm not revealing anything about what I was watching before I came here, okay? Huh? Read a history book? Miskeen, I can't read. So decide what's a need versus what you want. Ask yourself, if I don't have this, will my life be exponentially harder? So some people say, well, internet is not a basic need. It's not like food or drink. But in reality, it kind of is. Because almost every single thing that we do nowadays is over the internet. So if you don't have internet, your internet goes out, what happens? You say, man, is this like Robinson Crusoe? I don't read. This is like I'm stranded on an island. What am I supposed to do? Okay? So ask yourself, when you're doing your budget, do I absolutely have to have this in order to survive this month? And if I don't, then it's a want. Why is that important? It's important because if you lose your job, if you've got to chip in to help your parents with bills, if you have a huge expense that comes up and you're stretched for money, you know that, well, everything costs me about $2,000 a month, okay? But I know that my needs are only really about $950 of that. So for $2,000, if I'm going to pay just what I need to be able to get by and survive, and I've got $6,000 saved up, that gives me 3 months of full expenses. But how many months of needs does it give me? 6 months. So now I went from blowing out all of my money and being stuck in simply 3 months to now having a 6-month buffer period that I can survive in. Believe me, it's a very important principle to think about, especially when you are out of school, living on your own, and transitioning between jobs. Or maybe, for example, you want to switch from one job to another, but you know that you don't have the time to both work and go get a certain certification. And so you need to take 3 to 6 months to be able to go and go to a coding camp or get or get Six Sigma or do something like that. Now you can say to yourself, you know what? I've got enough money saved up to where I can live anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to 9 months without hurting my lifestyle, without pressing myself, and then transition into a new job easily. It's very, very important that you understand how much money you have and where that's going to take you throughout the year. Okay, it seems that some of you already have credit cards, so let's go to E. Should you get a credit card? Everybody's like, yes, how old are you? Why do you want a credit card? To build credit. You can build credit with a debit card. Yeah, you can. Yeah. I do this for a living. I know you're doubtful, but. So, why do you want a credit card? Yes, you can build credit with a debit card. However, you don't get the consumer protections that you would with a credit card. So when you spend with a credit card, what's happening? Who said that? It's not what? It's not your money. Somebody's fronting the money for you, and then you're paying them back. Which means that if anything happens on the other side of the transaction, fraud, messed up transaction, whatever that may be, they'll take care of it. Also, you get a lot of other things like insurance for your rental vehicles when you rent, insurance for your baggage when you fly, points that you can use. And no, credit card rewards and points are not riba. Let me just state that right now because that question always comes up. No, it is not interest to use a credit card or to have credit card reward points. When does it become interest-based to use a credit card? When you don't pay on time, and then they go. So here's how it works. Visa says, we have a network of people that will sell you stuff. Use our network to pay them. We will give you a credit card. But there's somebody that's going to have to sponsor you. Who's going to sponsor you? Your bank, Capital One, Chase, Wells Fargo, whoever that may be. So now you have a Chase Visa card or an Amazon Chase Visa card. So there's a couple of different parties involved. So now Visa's saying, look, if this guy wants to buy something, he can buy it through us. We'll pay that person, and then they'll pay us back later. But if he doesn't pay us back, Chase, you're going to pay us. And then you're going to go and get your money from him or her. Okay, ladies, you're not off the hook here, right? So what happens when you don't pay your card? Visa calls Chase. Chase, pay me. Chase pays them. Then Chase comes to you and says, pay us and pay us interest. That's when the interest comes in. So at its face, credit card is not an interest-based transaction. It's only interest-based when you are delinquent and you don't pay your credit card bill. And again, if that ever happens, what do? You call them up. Hi. I love Chase credit cards. And I've been paying on time and I made a mistake and I forgot that my payment date was on a Tuesday because I usually think about credit cards on Wednesday. And I was wondering if you could let me out of this fee or this interest charge at this time. Usually they'll let you do that. Okay, so determine why you want one. If you really need one. And then, and this information is for some of you, not all of you. If you're 15 years or older, the best way to get a credit card, actually with some credit cards, you can actually have them as young as 6 years old. So yes, my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old both have credit cards in their names. So you get a credit card through your parent's credit card account. Why? Because if your parent has a credit score of 700 and you're younger than 18, then as soon as you turn 18 and you get your own credit card account, you basically take the credit score of your parent with you without taking anything away from them. So you get stronger credit by being under someone's credit card and then having your own credit card after that. Okay? So that's the most important thing that you can do if you're still under 18. Yes? Yes, it would. Yes. So, say what? Pretty much, yeah. I mean, the only thing that the other thing that I suggest people do, and I think I mentioned before, is in addition to the credit card, get a utility in your name, or pay the utility through your account. And at that, as soon as you turn 18, 19, you'll have an amazing credit score. Why is it important to have a credit score? So you can buy stuff? No. Say? Less interest. So you'll be approved for financing. You'll also get better rates on pretty much everything in life. You'll have a trail of transactions that says this person is responsible and can pay on time. So that will do everything from lowering the amount of a deposit that you have to put to rent a car, to rent a home or an apartment, to get car insurance. Generally everything around, anything in the financial world will be easier for you. Understand the difference between debt spending and deficit spending. What's the difference, everyone? Debt spending is spending money that you don't have and won't have. So if your credit card has a $5,000 limit, then how much of that limit should you be spending every month? 5,000? Who said 5,000? No more than 25% of your credit limit on any one card should ever be spent. Yes, people will say 30%, but no more than 25%, which means that if you have more than one credit card, then decide where you're going to get the best points and how you're going to use those credit cards for paying for different things. But if you consistently spend more than 30% on your credit card, your credit score actually goes down. So 2 ways around that. Spend less and call them and just say, hey, can you raise my credit score? I mean my limit, yes. Okay. They must really like you. That's all I can say. But you should watch out for that. Over the long term, do you do the thing to get your credit report every year? Yeah. 760? You could probably be in the 800s if you spent less. 850, yeah. Say again? I mean, an okay score to get access to consumer credit, to buy a home, things like that, 600, 620, but that's very low. You want your credit score to be high, like 700s, 800s, preferably. Okay, what should you be looking for in a credit card? No annual fees, low interest rates. What we say is the difference between debt spending and deficit spending. Debt spending is what? Spending money you don't have and spending money you won't have. What is deficit spending? Deficit spending is spending money you don't have but you will have. Meaning that if I know that I have $1,000 coming into my paycheck and I spend $500 on my credit card, I can easily pay down the $500 that I've already spent. So I'm simply giving myself some time in order for that money to come into my account. Why is that important? It's important because if you don't know the difference between it, you will very easily fall into debt and then paying off credit cards for a very long period of time. Understand how your late fees and interest rates work and auto schedule or auto pay your payments. Okay. Any questions before we move forward? Yes? Is your FICO score a good estimate of what your credit score actually is? Your FICO score is an okay estimate of what your credit score actually is. It's going to depend upon the agency as well. So there's different ways of calculating the credit score. Yes, in the back.
Even if you have a high credit score, the length of your account matters?
You said the what? The length, yeah. So the time that you've had the account does matter, yes. Especially if you finish college and let's say you get a job and you want to buy a home, that's going to be very important to them. Yes? What is it? So the Improve Your Credit Score apps on YouTube, generally they're not scams. Some of them work, but a lot of that stuff you can do on your own. So for example, if you can't qualify for a credit card but you need one, then you can go to Walmart and you can buy a prepaid Visa credit card, which means that you have to load it with money before you can spend it, but it functions and reports to the credit agencies just like any other card. And therefore, you can build up credit without having to go beyond the cash that you actually have. And then once you have that for some time, then go and apply for another credit card if you want to. I know some people, they use those exclusively because they're like, I just know myself that I'm not going to, I don't want a credit limit that's so high that's going to make me spend more than I actually have. Is it wrong to lie about how much you make? It's wrong to lie. It's wrong to lie. Now, how much you believe you make or you're worth, that's up to you. But it is haram to lie, yes. So you're saying if you can't pay off your bill and you roll it over to the next month. Uh-huh. So they're definitely charging you interest. Definitely look. And the way that they'll charge it, sometimes if you look in the line item, sometimes it won't say interest charge. It'll say service fee, it'll say payment fee, stuff like that. So they change the words now so as to make you think like you just gloss over, you go, oh, that's just something I bought. Or service, yeah, I get services all the time. Why wouldn't I have a service, right? So look at anything that you don't recognize and then do one of two things. Report it as I don't recognize this, and they'll come back and say what it is. Or just contact them about it, like call them and say, how do I get this off my account? Yes?
What's an example of a credit card that has no annual fee and
No annual fee and low interest rates. So the Discover card is marketed heavy to college students, but generally is a good starting card. If you buy a lot of stuff from Amazon, you can actually apply for a credit card from Amazon. So it'll be an Amazon Chase Visa card. And that actually has more favorable rates and no fees associated as well. And Amazon, because they have all of your purchase history, they're more willing to extend credit to you because of that. So it's a very good way to do it. Yes? If you had a good credit score, can you benefit from a credit union? Credit union is generally, you could benefit from it in that when you have an account with a credit union, your account means that you're also an owner of the credit union, which means that if the credit union makes a certain amount of money in fees during the year, then they'll actually pay you some of that at the end of the year if they have more than their operational expenses. So it's the same thing with like mutual insurance. So if you have, which you should, any insurance company you use should be a mutual insurance company. If they have more money left over at the end of the year, over their capex, over their capital expenditures and their operating expenses, they'll actually send you a check or credit your account. Investing, no, but a way of mutuality and sharing of risk, yes. Yeah. I would, if you're trying to build a credit score, Discover might be acceptable. There's a website called NerdWallet that has a tool for finding credit cards that like match what you're looking for. So I would use that website, and they'll actually have like an app that suggests which ones would be the best offers for you. Okay, let's move forward. Learn to live frugally. How many of you have a budget? Create a budget? Wow, more than I expected. Okay. Figure out how much you spend each week or each month. Create a budget around that, track it. We already talked about whether your bank or your credit card allows you to do that, or you're using something like Mint or Personal Capital. Build an emergency fund. We already talked about that. Use school resources. So whatever facilities are free, whatever discounts you're given because you're a student, use textbooks you can. Textbooks, how many of you guys hate buying textbooks? Ridiculous. I remember I was attending a program at Rice years ago, and they were like, "Oh, the textbook is you have to buy the 13th edition. Have to buy the 13th edition." Why? 13th edition is like $500 for the textbook. And so I went to Half Price Books and I bought the 11th edition. And then my teacher got mad at me. But I saved $450. So who was really mad and who was happy? So try and be as frugal as you can with the expenses that are there. I'm sure that all of you are up on that. Save on transportation. How many of you live on campus? I'm actually surprised. That's more than I even expected, right? So Houston is a big commuter city. Carpool. Try to lower your transportation costs as much as you can. How many of you drive in? How many of you hate buying gas? How many of you use Gas Buddy? Oh, wow. Okay. You use Gas Buddy as well? Awesome. So Gas Buddy is an app that will basically, you'll hook it up to one of your credit card or debit card accounts. It'll tell you where the cheapest gas is on the way that you're driving, and then it'll actually give you points back on buying gas through them. And then if you combine that with buying prepaid gas cards from places like Valero or Shell, you can actually get like 50 to sometimes $1 off per gallon, right? So the more frugal you are and the more, super couponing mom you are, okay, with everything that you're buying, then the easier life is going to be. To live on your own and then save that amount monthly. So how many, we said that most of us here are living with our parents? Not me included, I'm just raising my hand, just to raise my hand. So, calculate what it would cost to live on your own and then save that amount of money every single month. So we said before, if you can put at least 10% into savings and investment, do so. If you can flip it, do so. But every single bill that you don't have to pay should be something that you are saving and investing or using to pay down debt that you already have. That should be the very first item on anything that you do financially as a college student. You want to finish college with the least amount of debt possible. That means student loans, that means credit cards, so on and so forth. Okay. Student loans. Do you have a student loan or not? I'm not asking anyone to admit here. This isn't like Student Loans Anonymous. You don't have to raise your hand. So this question comes up a lot, okay? So we all know that interest-based lending is haram. It's haram to lend someone money and charge them interest. This is riba, and it's also haram to pay it. However, we also know that there are literally no alternatives sometimes other than getting a student loan. Does that mean when we're forced to get a student loan that we borrow more than we need, or that we spend that money on things that are not related to education? No, it doesn't. So if you have a need to get a student loan, then get one. If finishing school and getting a loan, if the difference between you finishing school and not finishing school is getting a loan and finishing that semester, you get the loan and finish the semester and then pay it off. And you might be saying, I feel bad about that. Everybody feels bad about it. This is a question that when I was studying overseas, I asked scholars from Morocco all the way to India, of all throughout the Muslim world. And they all said the same thing. If you live in America and you have no other choice, do what you can to get scholarships and grants and work to pay it off. But let's be honest. No one's going to go and refi their house to pay your college bill, nor should they. Use the resources that are available to you and then pay them off as quickly as possible. What career are you going into? Many of you said computer science. You said between 70 to 90,000 starting salary. So for the career of you going to school, you should never borrow more than what you would make in the first year after college. Why? Because if you're still living with your parents or you're rooming with other people, then all you have to do is stay in student mode, live like a student. You've been eating ramen noodles this long, okay? You stay as a student, pay off all of that money in the first to second year after college. Now you don't have compounding interest. You don't have any debt. You have a better credit score because you've paid down all of that debt. And you now have more money that you can spend on the things that you like and that you can invest for future growth. So think about how much you're planning to make given your degree. Don't borrow more than that. In fact, borrow as little as possible and then live a student life after school so that you can pay that down as quickly as possible. Also, how many of you here go and see your financial aid advisor regularly? Good, mashallah, that's awesome. As you should. Use the resources that are available to you. Find out how you can leverage scholarships and grants to repay them. They're preferable to loans. Do what you can to not take on debt if possible, okay? And then ingrain in your head that you must live a student's life. Okay, so this is like a very old U of H story. We had a brother that was a student here at U of H in the 90s from Pakistan. And what he would do is every semester he would take $500 and he would create a scholarship. And then he would create a scholarship for students studying computer science from Pakistan that had a very specific GPA, and they were from a very specific village. And he would drop that in a scholarship thing, and then he would go back 2 days later, and he would say, "What scholarships do you have?" They would say, "We actually have a scholarship just for you. I can't believe that I actually qualify for this scholarship. How much is it?" "It's only $500. "That's great. This is going to help so much." He gets his $500 back, but what does he get as an international student? He gets in-state tuition, right? I'm just telling, I'm not endorsing this. I'm simply relating history of U of H MSA students, okay?
من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعفه له أضعافا كثيرة والله يقبض ويبسط وإليه ترجعون